Well, it's 6 o'clock. I'll call to order the Plan Commission meeting on the Patterson Mine. Roll call.
Ryan Strand.
Here.
Ed Linder.
Here.
Troy Smirchna.
Here.
Lowell Arms.
Here.
Linda Smirchna.
Linda, please verify the posting.
Postings were posted at the town hall, the port, the South Fire Station, and the Courier Press and WPRE were notified.
Just so everyone understands, we're not going to have public input. I certainly, this committee certainly respects the opinion and the opinion of whether it's whatever group it is, whether it's Flow or whether it's the Crawford Stewardship Project or concerned citizens, the public, and the residents. I guess with that being said, I would presume everyone's going to be respectable to this committee and to one another. If it gets out of line, you'll just be asked to leave as well. So. Well, we can move to number 4 to discuss the CUP application or the CUP application. The township attorney's here, so I guess I'll turn it over to him a little bit on what this committee needs to, what their due diligence is to move forward or not on this.
Sure. Well, what you guys tonight have to do, we talked about this a little bit, but what your ordinance says is that before you can consider approving this conditional use permit, okay, there are really 5 standards that you have to find. Okay, you have to make a finding that each of these exist. Okay. That finding has to be based upon facts. It has to be based upon information that you have received, whether it be from Pattison, whether it be from the engineers, whether it be from the general public, just all the information that you folks have taken in, whether it be a public hearing or some other method, everything that you've taken, tonight is, you consider all that information, and then you have to make a decision on those findings. And we've got to work our way 1 through 5. We've got to work our way through. If the answer is yes to all of those findings, then you can determine, okay, are there some conditions that we think maybe we need to consider? And then we vote on whether or not you want to consider it. If the answer to no is no to one of those standards, then you can't grant the CUP. Okay. Your decision. There are conflicting opinions on whether it's harmful to the property values or not harmful. That will be up to you folks to decide. Okay. We talked about it a little bit last week. You can't just say no to say no, or you can't just say yes to say yes. Okay. You got to have reasons for whatever decision you make. Okay, and you got to have a rationale for that, and whichever way you go, then folks they might not agree with you, but at least they respect the decision. Okay, so if you have questions of me while you're discussing this, you can certainly ask. I'll try to, it's not my decision. I can't make those decisions for you. You have to make that decision. I'll try to help you as best I can in terms of what to look at. The applicant is here. Certainly not out of the ordinary when you're considering these things, if you have questions of the applicant, to ask that. And we'll work our way through.
So do you guys want to go through these each individually? There's 5 items here. Should we go through each one individually and we can vote on them individually, or vote for the recommendation or not for or does it qualify or it doesn't qualify? Or should we just go through them all and then decide? What do you guys want to do as a committee?
Well, I think you have to, whether you do it all at the end or you do one and then make your finding. You will have to make a specific finding for each one of these. So at one point, the board has to say, okay, yes, we say, for example, number A, the board, yes, we do find that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will be in strict conformance with the requirements of this ordinance. This group as a whole has to find, I guess 3 of you have to make that finding, agree that that does exist. Okay, so you can certainly make those decisions at the end, but ultimately for each one of them you do have to make a determination or make a finding, so to speak. I guess I would advise you to, when you're discussing these, to articulate your reasons for why you feel the way you do. Okay, to articulate what you're basing your decisions on. Again, whether that be in favor of or against. People don't always like to talk, but I'm going to encourage you to talk. Okay.
Well, A or number 1 or A is that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will be in strict conformance with the requirements of this ordinance.
Well, it definitely is listed as a conditional use in the agricultural area. So from that standpoint, at least it conforms to that. And this section was actually, these ordinances were passed back in the 70s, and we're just trying to follow them and abide by them. So it is a permitted use.
So if it's a permitted use, under agriculture, you would,
Let's be clear, Linda may have misspoke, it's a conditional use.
Or
Conditional.
That's why you're here.
Yes, it's a
It
conditional
is a
use
conditional use
permitted
in the ag district.
in the ag district. As far as maintenance or operation, does that mean how it's actually handled, or is there, am I reading something else into it that I mean, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use. So, the fact that the application states what they're going to do with it, it states that they're going to be using it as non-metallic mining.
I guess what it amounts to is, when it talks about maintenance or operation, you're right. I mean, establishment, okay. The establishment of one is certainly allowed as a conditional use, okay?
Right.
Now, when they do the maintenance and when they do the operation of this thing, okay, is that provided for in your code of ordinances?
Okay.
And have they demonstrated to you in their application for both this permit, and considering the other information you have, are they going to be doing that in accordance with, some of the other regulations that you have for it, so to speak, you do have a non-metallic mining ordinance.
Right.
That they have provided they've applied for their permit with that, so that would be one, in looking at that, and looking at all of those things, are they complying? Is there an area that you think that they're not in conformance with the ordinances? Those are things you gotta ask yourself.
Hey, can we get you guys to speak up a little louder?
Sure.
Can't hear nothing back here. You have to turn towards us or something.
Can we refer to Delta 3's findings on these, okay?
Yeah, I mean, you can refer to all the information that you've got, whether it be Delta 3, whether it be fact sheet that's been provided by Pattison, or information you've received emails from other members, you look at what you got.
That should lead us into some pretty good findings, I would think,
Yes.
our Delta 3.
Well, that's up to this commission to how much relevance and what kind of importance you want to place on their findings.
Well, it's right, yeah. If the plan is not followed, the mine will be in violation of the time halted under the town ordinances, and our 135.
Could you repeat that?
If the plan is not followed, the mine will be in violation and will be fined or halted under the town ordinances and NR 135.
And there have been many changes made to the initial, cup, due to items that came up in the process and also after Delta 3s. So they've made changes that have been requested, so that they better reflect what we're looking for and wanting to
maybe Mr. Pattison or Dorothy would want to weigh in on what, if there's anything in the application that we haven't touched base on regarding this line item 1.
Well, you know, the fugitive dust plan, stormwater pollution prevention plan, the reclamation plan, the supplement to the plan with the Delta is all proof that Madison, assuming they follow the plans as written and the 30-some guidelines that were supplemented into the plan, that it will in fact, the operation will be maintained, the project will be maintained and operated within the conditional use standards. That's the point of those plans, is to make sure the project runs smoothly and follows federal and state regulations. And also, if you look, you know, at the other items of your ordinance, because there's many issues in your ordinance, all of those things were addressed in the applications and the supplement. And we feel by following those standards, including the industrial standards in an agricultural district, which you're not really required to follow, but we're going to follow anyway, that we're certainly, you know, going to be maintaining and operating this conditional use in strict conformance with your ordinances. Not only your non-metallic, but also your conditional use ordinances, anything else that comes up along the way.
They're making, I mean, they've made all kinds of plans for groundwater protection, so that there's not an issue with that, which has been a question as far as, you know, runoff and things like that.
And they stated a well report, where they would monitor wells.
In the area.
We're doing a pre-blasting inspection, I believe, in one of the requirements of the supplemental plan to address those concerns. We've got visual triangles in the Marfilius entrance way, for lack of a better term. The stormwater plan's got, you know, intermittent basins to catch. We've got erosion control plans built into all that. We've got a licensed blasting contractor who's spoken, I believe it was a public hearing or one of the hearings. We've laid out our standards for sound in the ordinance, and the conditional use permit as well. And, you know, one of your requirements under your ordinance, your conditional use is the inspections. And, you know, whatever the town requires, the operator has agreed to pay the actual cost of those inspections. They've got adequate insurance, you know, at least under any commercial undertaking I've seen, they've got enough. I'm assuming, you know, that insurance is laid out in the conditional use permit is sufficient for the town. The issue with the sureties or the bond is in the hands of the board, so you don't have to decide that.
guess after going over the Delta 3 report, which was in great depth, and gave us a lot of information last week, it answered a lot of questions that were maybe out there. I don't know, I guess I feel that it's in conformance with our conditional use.
So is there anything that anybody in the committee here can think of why, anything they have not done to be in conformance? So we either, I presume that we make a motion to approve or deny the number 1 on the line.
I think you just, I think, because you're not really making a motion, I think what you do is you just I think you ask for a vote, okay? And the vote, the question being, does this commission find that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the conditional use will be in strict conformance with the requirements of this ordinance? A yes vote means you agree and you find that it is in conformance, and a no vote means that you don't find that it's in conformance.
So Ryan,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Troy,
Yep.
Lowell, and I say yes.
Okay, the next one you have to consider is that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish the property values within the neighborhood. Or I should say diminish and impair the property values within the neighborhood. So, I guess, I'd suggest you do the same thing. Now, you guys need to discuss how you feel on it.
When you say diminish, what do you mean diminish?
Like,
Drastically
well, it says substantially diminish.
substantial?
Yeah, substantially diminish, so.
I don't know. They're going pretty and they keep building closer to the Thoriums up there. I don't.
Well, we did have an email from a resident that, that claims that they'll have to sell their property for a lot less. Is that,
And some
You know,
research shows that it's not, sorry,
Yeah.
if I do it on, some research shows that it doesn't decrease. I think it probably makes a difference what the type is. This is more of a quarry, not a functioning factory where they're going to be processing sand and those type of things. I think that makes a big difference. If it were a processing plant, then I could see maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. I haven't seen anything else that shows that it decreases it. And this is more quarry like in the Boscoville area, where they have not seen any decrease in value. There has also been several questions concerning, the health standards. And there again, from a quarry, it's not gonna be the same as a actual factory where they're reprocessing the sand into the finer sand.
I was down working in Clayton this week, and the people I was working for had 3 apartments that they rented. And I asked them, I said, have you guys had anything, have you noticed not being rented on weekends? Because you can walk out the door and you can see the factory and there's stuff right there. And he said, no, that hasn't bothered him. They still come to the river and they still fish. They, the bars are still down there in operation. So, I don't know how can demean it too much.
This letter here,
That's what Ryan was talking about.
yeah.
Yeah. Which one is that?
Midwest Professional Appraisal Incorporated.
Yeah.
I've seen lots of information on silica sand, I've read lots of it, and the majority always points to workers, the employees, and the employers that are around it. They really don't have studies as far as neighboring areas, so it's kind of hard to say that, it's going to be injurious of when they don't really have any standards for that. At least not that I've read. They have also, Pattison has mentioned that they would work with the lights that might be on at night so that it wouldn't hinder any of the neighboring properties. They also, you came up with something else for the trucks too, for the beeper and that, right?
Strobe lights.
Strobe lights at night. So that it would be just lights at night,
Yeah,
not
safety.
the beeper.
Actually, on that, we haven't really heard, we've looked into it, just starting, and really in our interaction here or elsewhere, actually, we've received no comments from anybody on that, whether that's desirable or not. And certainly, as things proceed forward, we're welcome to discuss with people and experiment with that and see what people think.
Well, I think, just to kind of get things are moving a little bit here, but you've got to look at 2 things. You've got to look at, are the property values going to be substantially diminished? And then, will the use be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties? I know you've talked about, the information you got from the appraisal company. You talked about a few other things, but I think this is where you guys have to talk about, okay, is the dust that this thing is gonna create, is the noise, the light, the traffic, are all of those things, you know, those are things, you know, are they gonna be, you know, based on what they've submitted and what their plan is, and the information you've gleaned, are all of those things going to be injurious? Or do you think that they've adequately addressed those situations? Do you think they're gonna substantially diminish the property values? And now's the time, I think, where you gotta look at those things and discuss those things and, make some decisions regarding those things. I think you've gotta consider all of that before you make a finding on this one.
Right. But that's just, I mean, if to decide if it's gonna decrease the value of the property ground, I don't know, how do you make a decision on that? Even with all the paper here, I mean, one says yes, it's gonna, and the other one says no, it's not. To me, I guess my opinion is I don't see why it would impact it. I
Well,
don't-
if the mine would have been here first.
There's no public
I
input.
would not have bought
Sir.
my property. So what does that tell you? And I guarantee you, there's other people in this room that would have not bought their property.
Tim.
The mine was here first.
Could you-
What
could
does
you
that
please
tell you
leave?
about property values? He gets to talk.
He's on the agenda. Hey, Tim,
Come on.
he's on the agenda. I mean, just give us the rest of these things, please.
Yeah, you guys don't know how it affects property value? I'm telling you. How many people in this room, raise your hand, would not have bought your property if that mine was there first? Okay? What does that tell you about property value? Right there.
If there isn't going to be any of the mine seen from your residential area, do you feel that that's a hazard? Well, I mean, I guess I don't know if there isn't any residential areas that are being mined, which there really isn't. And if it can't be seen from their property, does that diminish it? If you can't see it, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that comes into play. I don't, back to, the Boscoville quarry, and they have not seen a diminishing of their property values.
How long's that been in operation?
How can we say that it's going to, drastically diminish them here? And it's not, again, it's not a processing plant.
Look at that street running from Wetzel Quarry,
Webster.
Webster Street, yeah. I know, I'm all out of there a lot. If you dig a basement right along the street, the trucks are running, the people still built there.
They're still building there.
Yeah.
They're still complaining every time they dynamite and dust comes out of the trucks when they drive by. John Garside lives right there.
Well, they should have built there then.
They were there for the rock run.
I'm not gonna turn this into this. This is what I'm trying to prevent, so that this committee can look at,
Then discuss both sides. You guys are all being very one-sided, and it's very frustrating. Let's hear some discussion on both sides of the table.
I feel that that this committee has got enough information from the residents to know their
I think you have.
concerns.
I just want to hear you talk about it, instead of looking at this guy and listening to him, and every one of you in your discussions is clearly in favor of this mine. It's obvious.
I'm simply asking Mr. Pattison and Dorothy if there's anything that we have overlooked, if there's anything in addition to what we're talking about. Certainly, the evidence that presents itself is what we have to use. And if there's something we're missing that we overlooked in the application, I'm able to ask him. I'm able to use the information that Delta 3 has provided. Though that's where we get our information from. And it's not one-sided. I certainly, if we're gonna ask whoever a question.
so right now, what we have is one house that couldn't sell because a mine was coming in, but I guess we don't know. That's all the information that we have. We don't know that it wasn't said, well, this big mining operation is going in and you're gonna hear it, you know, all the time, and there's gonna be all these trucks running all the time. I mean, if it normally hasn't decreased, why would this be the exception? It seems that if that were the case, it would happen, it would be everywhere. It wouldn't be just one specific place. Why would one specific place? And if our property values are low now, it has nothing to do with the sand because nothing's happened there yet. They're just maybe lower because of the area. I don't know how else to rationale it.
Why don't we try looking at it this way, okay? There's no, I don't think anybody is gonna say that, you know, the possibility of noise, dust, traffic, I don't think anybody here can say that that will have absolutely no impact.
Right.
If unfettered, I don't think anybody can say that that will have no impact on your enjoyment of your property or your property values. Okay, if you can just do whatever you want to do, I think you can find that that happens. Okay, I think what you got to look at is what they're proposing and the you know, their plan of dealing with those issues. Given that plan, do you feel that it's going to present a problem for the property values? Do you feel that it's going to enjoy their use of the property? Okay, that's what you got to look at. Okay, yeah, there's a real possibility for an issue here, for a problem. Have they given us enough? Have they told us enough? Are you satisfied with what they're saying in terms of how they're going to deal with those issues? To find that, you know what, given the use and given how they're going to handle it, we don't think there's going to be a substantial diminution of property. We haven't seen enough that would tell us there's going to be a substantial diminution of property. We've got a report from someone who apparently has sold properties around quarries and they haven't seen it. Or you come the other way. We don't think what they're going to do is enough. We think there's going to be a real problem based on other histories and other things we've seen. That's what you got to do.
With the number of trucks, we've been offering to sit down with one or more, and I realize they have to have a meeting to do that, which I think has been a problem, to lay out, you know, the concerns which are at the end of this ordinance regarding the numbers, the hours, you know, landscaping, fencing, you know, those kind of issues. So keep those in mind. It's up to the committee to decide what the number is. Mr. Patterson has explained why he would like it to be left open from a market demand standpoint. Unlike Bosqueville, they don't run all the time. But if the market demands it, they would like to be able to do that. If that is going to be something that this committee can't live with, then please tell us what you can, and we can see if Patterson Sand Company is able to, you know, predict more of a.
When this is going to be extracted, Kyle, when the sand is going to be extracted, are there going to be a lot of large piles of sand sitting around places for long periods of time, or what actually?
Our intent is to move the material a minimum amount, and actually we've got to start out with, and to minimize the piles that with rods we've got to plan. There's a field that isn't very productive, that's more of a gumbo clay, to put a little bit of topsoil over the top of that so we don't have a pile that sits there for so many years. The intent is to minimize the piles that would be stockpiled. And once we start mining, that we would rotate from the stripping off the top to building up the bottom, and then the sand, as far as sand being stockpiled, that really the intent is to shoot it and then load it onto a grizzly, because you can't dump larger pieces into the trucks that will haul the majority of it in, and then to haul that so that the piles of sand would be very minimal, and then we'll have a different type of truck for the stuff that goes off of the grizzly. That'll be hauled in a different type of truck. So I mean, the stockpiles will be very minimal. The hours of operation, I mean, we've got, or we'll have approximately $2 million of equipment invested, and if we cut our hours in half and need to haul the same amount of tons, the cost would be over $2 million, and some of it related to Prairie du Chien and where we're transloading right now is limited in area. To have more equipment there would be difficult. As far as really, if you narrow the time down, what it has is more of an impact when people are awake and around and traveling on the roads. So if you've got half of the traffic at night, then that's half of the traffic when you're sleeping. And as far as the noise bothering people, again, I try to do the best I can to understand what other people, and then we all have different makeups, life experiences that get us to where we're at right now. And I mean, I live in the town of Prairie du Chien. I live right next to the quarry that Ed spoke of, and actually just built a house there recently. And again, my background is different than the rest of yours, but
You can't tell.
Well,
That's stupid.
and just
Well, how often do they
clarify-
blast the quarry? Once every 2-3 months?
there's
Not every day, do they?
stockpiles on these, are located on the maps, I mean, not
The-
the stockpile locations.
So,
no.
so the second one, is it gonna be dangerous to the use and enjoyment of the other properties? It's certainly gonna be a change, it's certainly gonna be different with traffic and things of that nature.
Ryan, why doesn't?
I don't think it'll be injurious to the neighboring properties.
The rest of them gotta talk besides Linda.
The Department of Transportation runs traffic count numbers every 3 years in Crawford County. We consulted with that department. There's now, in 2007 as well as 2010, there's 2,100 cars a day are on Highway 60. The department, with the numbers of 120 trucks, which is 200 per day, did not have a problem with the number of trucks being added. And I have an email here somewhere from the Department of Transportation that specifically says that the number of trucks won't be an issue, and they're not looking for any highway maintenance as well. Here's the maps. Make an extra copy, just underline that, what I just said. We certainly have the DOT map.
Yeah, I thought it came. I think they were part of the restoration plan, the original, so.
Ryan, I think you need to say, I mean, I know you said it's gonna be different. I know you said that it's going, you don't think that it's going to be injurious, but I think you need to explain why
Well,
you feel that way.
I guess I was trying to get to that because of the location, just because it's on, it's on the south side of the highway. The majority of the neighboring, the the neighboring properties are to the north, the traffic count doesn't seem to be substantially more than what it already is. You know, the DOT has not required them to bond any more than, you know, if the DOT thought it was a substantial amount of truck traffic and was gonna damage that state highway, they would certainly make them be bonded through the state for repairs. And the permit right there is quoted from the DOT saying that, you know, we're not gonna require you to, so I guess that's my rationale for, there's certainly gonna be more traffic, I understand that, but it doesn't seem to be a concern with the DOT.
No, the DOT. And it said right there, I mean,
They're not sleeping off of Highway 60 with compression brakes going up and down the hills and all that, but big difference between a truck and a car.
one thing with where they're proposing this too is that there is a heck of a mound, I mean, a hill all the way around that thing. I mean, all the way, you know, all the way along 60.
As far as noise?
Well, I'm not saying noise, but it's gonna help buffer it,
Oh,
by all means. And if as much trees as is there can stay there, and of course that helps. Anyone, I mean, we all know that.
They're gonna burn all that, or a big portion of it.
Some, yes. But I mean, with that hill there is a lot. I mean, it's not everything. But for sighting, I mean, it's said there, not to see the Nagel point, the Nagel place.
Well, and this map kind of shows how far we are from a setback standpoint. I know you've had this in your plan, but you can't really see it in your plan as well as you can from the highway. You know, we're not right up to the highway. I mean, we're quite a bit, I don't know what the exact feet is.
It's awfully close to the Wisconsin River.
Dorothy, can I guess and say what Mr. Pattis, I mean, if they ask you guys
Oh,
the information, can
okay.
you give it, otherwise wait till last, please?
So we're all right,
Yeah.
so you're done.
Well, at least, yeah, wait till if they got questions.
As far as looking at, oh, I don't know what I was gonna say, I lost my train of thought. I guess back to Ryan's statement that yes, it will be different. If it's not back to, it's not the processing plant, which makes a difference too.
Well, change keeps coming. Walmart moved out there. The hospital's moving out there. I mean, everything's, it's gonna be different, yes. But I still don't see it to be detrimental to the neighboring areas. I can't see that. My opinion. So, according on what we have from this, the appraisal.
Unless you limit the number of trucks, it's only a plan.
There's also several archaeological sites and wetland areas in that are looked at, but that was all changed also. I mean, what lies in the Riverway, Addison has said they won't even touch. So that in itself should alleviate any problems there. Injurious to the use of their own property.
It can't be.
I mean, is that what it's talking about? It will be injurious to the use of their property?
Other property.
other properties. And it shouldn't affect other properties because it's all happening in this one specific area.
So I guess that's what I was saying, it was between the highway and the river. I mean, there's a buffer between, as opposed to being, you know, up vineyard somewhere, I guess is what I was getting at.
Right. I know you, Kyle, how close is, what's the closest point of the sand mine is how far from Highway 60? Does that thing have number of scale?
There's 200 feet, so the closest point looks like be here, that would be the closest point, and actually that's behind the trees there. Those
Right.
trees won't be disturbed within this line. This line is, through here is the state
It's basically, so
highway.
roughly
So
400
it'd
feet.
be, actually it'd be 300 feet or something
300
like
something
that.
feet, okay.
Up here would be 400 feet.
And there, oh, yeah, there.
There would be 600 feet potentially.
How far from the river since you're there?
500 feet.
500 feet?
Where's the Nagel's property on
The Nagels property is house.
Can we keep this to let the committee ask the question, please? I'm just trying to get through this. I mean, we're trying to keep focus on task here, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Well, let
I know
everybody up
it's
there
hard.
talk, and nobody's talking but Linda. Basically.
It's just concerning. We keep hearing Patterson says, Patterson says, Patterson says. It's kind of like giving the keys to the prison to the inmates.
But who's gonna be doing the work? And I have another question, Kyle, for you. You are going to be doing how many acres at a time approximately? And I know it's changed different times, so.
It will, the intent is to have the minimum amount open at a time and to reclaim it behind us. And looking at, and to minimize the impact, I mean, there's Flansburgh's right next to that, and there's Nagel's there. And working with them at different times, depending on what's going on. I mean, what we spoke was 20 to 40 acres, and actually that should be great plenty. And that would probably provide if, say, when we're going towards Nagel's, and they can see some of what's going on there. If it's a problem, as far as running at night, then we'll need to have two areas, because there's plenty of area there that you can operate, so it's not bothering them at night. The intent is to have the minimum amount open as possible, and then to be reclaiming it right behind.
I just wanted to verify that, thank you.
The other thing with injurious, they're doing groundwater, they're going to be on top of wells, monitoring them. So there's another thing that they've got in their plan. I feel, I mean, I don't want bad groundwater any more than the next person, but if they're monitoring them, they're gonna be on top of them. And they stated that, they showed that, and they had that in their thing too, and,
That's now been incorporated into the reclamation plan for the engineer.
I doubt the 3 revised that. You know, I think what folks, you know, certainly we're asking Pattison on how he's gonna handle the operation, but yeah, we do need to somewhat take his word on what he's gonna do, on the process and procedures out there. Certainly, it's in the township has has recourse if he doesn't follow these procedures. So, you know, when folks say that, you know, we're giving the prisoners the keys or whatever, you know, I think that's a little bit a far stretch.
Well, we hear a lot of, out of Mr. Patterson's mouth, the intent. Intentions are great. Intentions are not exactly what's going to happen. I don't hear any specific rules of this is exactly what I'm gonna do. I just hear the intent. Big difference.
How about Rodney's house there? All these trucks starting to stop right ahead of his house. That's 7 days a week, all night long? You think you can sit out on the lawn and enjoy a picnic or anything? Good. It's done.
And I agree, you need to talk to him, but what I'm not seeing is all the other experts that you've talked to.
And what about Myron Nangle? I heard the proposal, like.
In order for us to go through, that's why I'm asking for everyone to, I'm asking everyone's, you know, this is where this is leading to, and this is why folks don't, you know, we don't have public input,
But this
because
family
we're
was
going,
directly across from it, directly
we're going
across from
through
this
this,
line.
Something of this
you know, we're going
magnitude,
through
you
this
should have
stuff,
public input.
and this is what it's turning into. I mean, this is what we're trying to avoid.
Right. I just was
So,
wondering if Patterson was buying out Nagel. That would be effective of the property.
Question for the lawyer is, are there any issues if any of the commission members have relatives working for Pattison?
I'd have to know the exact relationship, Mike, without knowing more about it, more than likely, no. A lot depends upon the relationship with that person, the financial support being provided by that individual.
one of the neighbors had a concern about, I think it was Fischler's, had a concern about blasting, which may be injurious to the neighboring property. If they're blasting at permissible levels, Todd, I mean, what recourse what in addition, what can we do, or what can we add to the permit? Or if they're under the permissible levels, do we not have, I mean, is it?
Well, I mean, you can certainly place, you know, with the conditional use permit, you can place, you know, conditions on what they can do, okay? Now, if they are operating under, if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in terms of noise standards that the town has, in terms of what the DNR says you can or cannot do, you're somewhat, that's what they have to do. Now, if they violate those, they're in excess of those, the DNR probably, if they're violating any of their requirements, they would have some recourse. The town would have recourse, they could seek to enforce those, so it's like anything. If they violate the terms of the conditional use permit, if they don't do what they're supposed to, they say they're going to do, if they violate a provision of the ordinance, whether it be a noise or whatever issue it might be, then the town can seek enforcement.
Anytime you shoot, you'll be required to let the neighbors know, right?
Yep, we can,
I know this is when they shoot Wetzel's quarry, it's on the radio. And I've helped load them quarries.
yeah, but we can communicate however people,
Isn't there a difference
Desire.
between the rock quarry and the sand mine, this frac sand mine? Big difference?
I don't see where there being a difference. I've seen sand blasted.
I mean, when I compare basketball to what we're gonna have out here, I don't think there's no comparison.
So what happens if that well does collapse?
And they were blasting within permissible levels. Who's responsible
Because
for
we
that?
need, we need water for all them cattle down there. Every day, right now.
Oh, you mean it's gonna take the well out?
No.
Well, I think they'll check it.
How
All
often?
sand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How often?
And all the shooting has been done. Look at the Patch Grove Hill.
So do we want to,
They're shooting there right by the high school.
Robert Fry it seemed he was, as far as talking to somebody from another township, he seemed very positive about what was going on there.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is a bigger item. It's a lot bigger facility.
But still the same premise.
Right, yeah, exactly. I guess that's why someone,
Still taking the same thing out of
I guess that's why I'm saying that, if we're taking information from an operator that's already currently in business or currently doing this in Wisconsin, and we've got information from a town chair that is from another township.
Right. And with that, with the study,
You're only allowed so much dynamite for the number of holes you have.
Okay, so groundwater protection, they have things in place that will help that. So that
stormwater.
there's not problems for groundwater,
Right, well, yes, groundwater, yes.
for groundwater protection.
How are they protecting the groundwater?
Groundwater will be protected.
Ponds.
Now, and Kyle, on your well checks, how far around are you going from the site?
half a mile.
A half a mile, okay. When you do them checks on the well, it's an inspection?
Yeah, actually what we did, we spoke to a hydrologist and then we'll follow their recommendations, what the expert is, and what they spoke of was a drawdown test to see what your capacity was. They'll do a thorough inspection of what they can of the well. And then there were also different other specific items, which I don't remember all of them, that they listed out that they would test, and it would be done by a hydrologist or an expert, that's what they do for a living.
Okay. So then if the well wasn't legal, to begin with, they'd make that note too.
For the well, they'll report what they find, and I mean, what our goal is to see that we don't have an impact on the well, and if we have an impact on the well, then to, anyway, we're responsible of it,
Okay.
to take care of the problems with the well if we can.
The monitoring wells are a good idea, but keep in mind, that does not prevent it, that's detection, at which point it's already contaminated.
So along the same lines as the groundwater protection, there's stormwater pollution prevention plan, which has been addressed several different times. And that's for erosion, so that there isn't runoff like into the river. And that's being controlled and modified as needed, right?
Yep.
Okay. Fugitive dust has been a big issue.
Them trucks are covered coming in and out, aren't they, Kyle?
Yes.
Like your roads and stuff, they'll be all water, won't be for dust.
The road, to start out with, will be a dust control system put on, if need be, water. And if there's problems beyond that, then we could chip seal or do something like that. So that
The trucks have traveled down 60 coming from Boscobel, and I'm unaware of this being a concern in the past, I guess, is,
Just on the road, but I mean out in the field.
right.
They're coming out. There'll be a lot of dust.
what's that?
There'll be a lot of dust there,
Where the,
where they're traveling in and out.
we'll manage the road, so
Yeah.
there'll be very minimal dust. And we'll put magnesium chloride or dust control solution on the road. And very possibly after the first year, after the road settles in, for part of it, next to the highway, I mean, tar or chip seal is also a possibility.
How do you keep the dust off the sand piles that are on site from blowing around? You know, tarp the entire site?
You can water it.
You don't have to answer that, Kyle.
You can, but will you? This is what I'm talking about. Are you going to? Or are you just gonna tell us intent? Or can?
Tim, if your intention is just to cause a bunch of chaos.
No, I
then
want some answers. That's my intention. Just want some answers.
It doesn't appear that way.
That's because I'm not
That's what
getting
the
them.
board should be asking them, then. He's doing it in place of you guys.
You guys are sitting around like you don't even understand the questions. I mean,
So, I'm not-
Back to fugitive vest. So I guess that was where I started with my question about large sand piles, and there really isn't going to be any. If you have open areas that have a sand pile on it, do you have means that you can either cover or water them down or something? Because it seems lately, the wind, all it does is blow. Needless to say, so I guess that was my first concern about large piles of sand just sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, the DNR manages dust and fugitive dust, and we will meet the requirements and exceed the requirements of the DNR. And if you look at, I mean, sand piles is the sand that we're mining is very little different than what you see down by Blue River. There's piles sitting there all the time that aren't watered other than when it rains. That sand, there is probably 40 to 60% exactly the same sand. And anyway, we'll manage within the DNR rules. If we don't, then you have the ability to hold us accountable to live within those rules.
And the fugitive dust control plan has been submitted to the board, along with the storm water solution for them.
And you mean they're okay?
Right, before we can start, yeah. They regulate those.
I'm assuming with the stormwater, anything that, say something does break loose or it washes onto a neighboring property, that's your guys' responsibility
Yes,
to clean that up?
yes, absolutely.
With that plant in Boscobel right now, Kyle,
Yes,
is that thing running 24/7?
no,
Just because the demand's down? Or I mean, there's not the demand, or not, you know?
the demand for coarse sand is down, and the economics there with what we've had to strip were and the prices of the sand changed, so at this point in time, it doesn't work very well. Markets change, and at some point in time in the near future, that will most likely change. Anyway, we will continue what we've started there, and it's just a matter of timing, and I spoke to Dillman's and the Marion Township about it, and everybody's comfortable with what's going on.
I went over, based on, I mean, I was over, was checked in Clayton too and looked at that one, the reclamation part of it. I know it's really not a good part of it. That looks really good over there. I can. If they did reclaim it. So, but the other one that I've seen, that's the only one that I've. With that fugitive dust, Kyle, is that something too, like, that's monitored daily? And at the landmine? You know, the dust, I mean, like, is that something?
Yes, we'll have a record where the person there that's responsible for is, in all places, we do a work shift examination, in which is really somewhat continuous as you go through there. If there's an issue as far as fugitive dust, the person in charge will be responsible to correct it.
And the DNR and MSHA, put that stipulations in there?
The DNR, it would be related to the fugitive dust and the air requirements by the DNR. MSHA also has requirements related to dust. I mean, really, if you look at a concern and to help the rest of the people understand it, as far as dust, from my understanding and information put out by the EPA, 33% of the crystalline and silica dust is created by gravel roads off of rock quarries. And if you're really concerned about silica dust, you shouldn't drive down gravel roads.
Did you pass this up to the board?
Todd was NR 135. In theory, if something was majorly violated, they'd come in, it'd be shut down.
Right, I mean, if they violate the provisions of their permit, in other words, they have to comply with the standards set forth in
Right.
NR 135, yeah, the board could in essence revoke or suspend that permit, and they would have to stop.
They'd have to stop.
So we're on number 2. Will it or will it not be injurious to the use, enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity?
So letter of non-compliance from the DNR issued to Pattison. Might want to look at it. It applies to number 2.
What about the other 535 violations?
So, Kyle, I think what some of the residents are getting at here is how are you gonna prove to them that this isn't gonna be an ongoing issue, this non-compliance?
I can talk about that if you, actually the non-compliance, if you read it more particularly, it spoke of alleged violations. And if you look at the rules and regulations that we were in compliance there. And certainly we have done and continue to do things to address people's perceptions and understandings again. we've taken recommendations. There's 20 or 30 different things that we've done there to lessen the impact in other areas where we've transload. And we have had a few complaints. There's been, I think, maybe 2 letters that we've responded to. Actually, I've had, relating to the transload, nobody take the time and come up to me and ask in a personal setting to understand more so, or to ask questions. And you're welcome to come and ask. We hired professionals to take a look at it, to manage things properly, and to the best of my understanding, we have, and if there is an area that we haven't done, we will correct it. So not any.
So is this type of loading the same as what you're gonna be doing on this site?
No.
Okay, so it may not, it may or may not be applicable?
What we're doing there is processed sand,
Okay.
and what we're doing here is raw sand, or non-processed sand.
Ryan, is that the letter that was in the paper?
That appears to be under the same, on the same contents. So Todd, on number 2, I presume we're gonna wanna move in the same manner that we did on number 1, whether we
Right.
vote yes or no?
Right, yeah, I mean, I think if, and that's up to the commission, if you think you've discussed that sufficiently and you're ready to decide whether you want to make that finding, yeah, now would be the time. The question would, if you're ready, if you're not, talk about it some more. But yeah, the question would be is, do you find that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish and impair the property values within the neighborhood? A yes vote would mean that you find that it will not be and will not diminish. If you think that it is going to substantially diminish the property values, if you think that it is going to be injurious to the other ones, you vote no.
I don't think it'll have a big impact on it.
Speak up.
You wanna do a vote now then?
Speak up.
Unless, yeah, that's fine, I was just, I'm trying to process the information and see if we've captured everything. Is there anything that we have not touched base on, that, in your mind?
Well, you guys have to decide.
I understand that, I was
No,
just,
I mean, you've got a lot of information, you've got to decide how you feel about that information, one way or the other.
I think it's a matter of degree here. How much is substantial, how much is injurious? That we have to decide on too, I suppose, individually, I suppose. How much is substantial, how much is injurious?
I can see it being more, I can see it being more substantial if it's something that looked right out and seen. Right. See tips of them or something, to me, with the way it is, lays right there along 60. In my mind, I don't think it's gonna devalue greatly. I just can't, I don't see it doing that.
The way I see it, most of it can be seen from the road,
Right.
and it can't be from the river.
So, I mean, I guess I'm just not,
Consider yourself on our property, not yours.
I got one just down the road from me.
You got a rock quarry,
It's still a quarry.
big difference,
Not 200
you got
acres.
smell of roses.
Was it there before or after you bought your house?
After.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know as there's anything been really shown to us that would say, yes, it definitely will be injurious. The trucks have been hauling all summer and it didn't cause problems. You aren't gonna be able to see it from your property, so it's not like you're gonna have to step out your door and see this mess. It'll all be behind. And we have nothing that tells us it will substantially diminish the value of the property. At least not at this point in time, and who knows, you know, several things can diminish the value of your property, and it has nothing to do with a sand mine. It can be the economy itself that diminishes it, and nothing you can control there.
But you can control this. Absolutely.
You want me to take a vote?
sure.
So, on 2,
Now, is that okay with the attorney? He already said, is that okay with the attorney that you vote?
that the conditional use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish property values within the neighborhood. That's what we're looking at.
You
Ryan?
can ask us to vote
Yes.
too.
Ed? You vote yes or no?
And
Yes.
Lowell?
Yes.
Are you guys for real?
Troy?
This doesn't affect Rodney's use of his property?
And I say yes.
Are you for the people or for yourselves? You're speaking for us or for your own opinion?
Their own opinion.
How many people in this room are against what this is gonna do to our community? Raise your hand. How many people? Raise your hand if you're against what it's gonna do to our
Yeah, where do you
community.
live anyway?
On Ward Road,
Yeah.
but I'm a neighbor to Rodney Fischler and a
They're
friend.
taxpayers too, you know.
You know, this is certainly the committee's, you know.
Maybe you should put down a moratorium. This is
the
gotta be
committee has
worked
to
out
stay
in the long
focused
run.
on what's going on here.
But the committee speaks for the
Why don't you
people,
just
does
put
it
it to a
not?
public referendum and let the people decide?
Right.
Yes.
Then you can take it out of your hands and let us
Then
deal
you
with
guys
it.
don't have to worry
That's
about
right.
legal repercussions for doing the wrong thing either way.
By the people, for the people.
That's right. Let the people
Try
decide.
to go to number 3? Or do you have all of them?
Question for the lawyer, is, since you're working for us, the taxpayers, why can't we put this on a public referendum?
That would be a decision that
What you talk about.
that would be a decision for the town board. And that decision has already been made. They've adopted their non-metallic. They made that decision to adopt a non-metallic mining ordinance a while ago.
And the town board is what, 2, 3 people?
We have no non-metallic mining
That's a
ordinance.
reclamation ordinance.
Right.
We do not have one.
At least we
Is there one?
made aware of it.
Do not have one.
Adequate access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
That's on three.
Point 3, yeah. That adequate access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or are being provided.
We just closed it down the lake training for
It sends things into the access. DOT. And they've all been approved, correct, Al?
So that you-
The DOT?
yes. As Dorothy spoke, yes.
The Mark Gillies one. If there's one needed for Earl's, it will be applied for first, per the supplement, it has to go to the town. But the DOT is the ultimate because it's, I mean, the town's given a copy, you know, that it's gonna be done.
We checked with the erosion thing. I mean, if there's something that does happen,
Erosion and drainage.
erosion and drainage. That in their plan. If anything does go wrong, it's their responsibility. See, again, it comes back to that NR 135. I mean, with what they've got, it stipulates that they'll handle it, and they got the road in, that's been through to the state. So that NR 135 chapter NR 135, again, comes into play for that part also.
You've all read that, 135, NR 135?
NR 135 is a state
Yep, have you all read it?
plan.
A while back,
Okay, good.
Engineer will do the whole
Maybe you can
thing.
elaborate and tell us what it's about.
what's that, Ed?
The engineer went through
Yes,
last day.
yes.
Well, Dan was happy with their drainage and their erosion plan last week. You know, certainly, we're not qualified to determine if that's adequate or not, but Dan is. I presume that's why we hired him.
Yes. And it has to be reclaimed in a reasonable amount of time so that it's not left open while others are being worked on. So that's good.
Is that applicable for us, Todd, for, as far as reclamation goes, or is that that's more for the town board, is that accurate?
Well, I mean, when the town board considers that permit, they have to look at the reclamation plan, they have to make sure that everything is adequate under NR 135. I mean, if you think that something that they're proposing in that plan is going to have an impact on access roads, drainage, and those types of things, yeah, I think you can discuss it, I think
Okay.
you can talk about it.
On the, Kyle on the Montpelier property, this is gonna be his driveway, or you're gonna make another one?
We're gonna make another one.
Or after his driveway?
That's what we presented to the state, and There'll be a, actually to
Oh, geez, okay.
start out with, we'll use Rod's driveway until we're able to make the other driveway, so we minimize the impact. We'll go around behind and start from the back side, and we'll create a fence, and anyway, we'll use his driveway to start out with, and then develop the other driveway.
Can you clarify a little on that?
He answered your question, Drew?
What's that?
Did he
Yeah,
answer
yeah.
your question?
I guess we touched on groundwater protection. Which is drainage.
Nothing toxic, because there's not gonna be anything big enough to stop it.
And back to the Reed's findings, everything was in line with what they found for their application also.
Well, I presume that number 3 relies a lot on what Dan has provided to us. I mean,
Well, they submitted.
as far as
to
drainage,
DOT.
as far as drainage goes,
Yeah.
the DOT permit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the DOT permit for the access road was approved, and the drainage and the drainage from stormwater and groundwater protection was all found to be in compliance as far as what they had in their application. What would necessary facilities be that would be on there? There isn't going to be anything built other than just the mining itself and the road. Well, police put on.
There would be probably an office trailer, portable
Okay.
office trailer on there. Other than that, that's the only thing that I can, there'd be, when we're doing reclamation work, there'll be a few people working there. Otherwise, when we're just moving the sand, there'll be one person there other than the truckers coming in and out, and that's all that I can think of.
Okay.
How about the human waste porta potties or a septic, or what are you doing there?
signs have to have them, don't they?
Yeah, there will be a, most likely it'll be a porta potty is what it'll be. But we have a plate, we have several of them, and that's managed by Packets. Yeah. Yes.
So have we found anything any reason why they wouldn't conform with number 3?
Say, Kyle, say you would, if everything would go and you had something open, and all of a sudden things kind of shut down, I mean, how long would it stay open, like the sand, the pit? Or is it something that you would come in and cover back over until things start again? Or you know, that business pick back up?
I mean, I guess the question is how far do you want to go into that answer, and you can stop me at any point in time. I can talk longer than what you want to listen, but I believe we're fortunate to be in the business of supplying frac sand. I think it'll be a good long-term business that will provide value to the area, value to the United States. With that, I believe that it's something that's going to be going on for 10, 20, 30 years. And that demand through that time, as it has since 2008 when we started, it's oscillated up and down somewhat. We as a company have been in business since 1950, and I've made plans for my son to take over the business. I've been in the community for 27 years, and I plan on, the answer to your question is, we plan on being around a long time, and we'll complete what we started there as we have in other areas. And if for some reason we shut down the mine, then we would reclaim it fill into the openings, and it would be reclaimed at the point. And in looking through there, there will be some product taken out of there each year. If for some reason we don't take product out of there, then within a year, then it will be shut down.
Are you ready to vote on 3, or do you want some more time to discuss? Then I guess then the question will be, does this commission find that adequate access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or are being provided? Before, yes means you find that that has taken place, no means you don't believe it has.
Ryan,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Lowell,
Yes.
Troy,
Yes.
yes.
The adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designated as to minimize traffic congestion on a public road or in public roads. Presume that goes back to the DOT permit with to include the turning lane. Has any of that changed?
That's what's the plan is.
So for any reason, I guess, do we find that that's not adequate for ingress and egress out of the site? Well, what about the second drive that I presume that would mean, the possibility for a second access, I presume would mean an additional turning lane at that access. Is that appropriate?
Way down by Earl's.
We're talking about it, we've,
I mean, it's not on this. You had mentioned earlier that there's a potential for the second drive by Earl, so I presume
by
that
Earl's,
means.
that would have a turning lane also.
Okay.
It would be designed in the same manner.
Okay.
And the DOT would need to approve it in the same manner.
So is that, I guess the question is that adequate access for that site, or do we feel that it's not adequate?
Not adequate there.
Three, that's what I'm looking for. And that comes back to, that's basically the DOT's looking at that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep,
that's,
that's the
yeah.
same. It's the same picture he showed you, the same image he showed you on there, yeah. I guess I was
Well, it's
asked,
the straightest way, I mean, the straightest area of the highway, isn't it? Not that there's many straight spots. And the other ones, I don't know that. Going through more places, yeah.
If we build another driveway, then it'd be a turning lane, right? Off the side.
Yes, the second, when we look at mining to the far end, our current plans at this point in time are to have a driveway on that, is what, and there would be a turning lane there.
Vision triangles goes into it as well.
other than that, Todd, what's the township's or the zoning's responsibility as far as a state highway goes? I mean, other than getting on and off the property, I mean, as far as actually traveling through the township,
I don't know if I quite understand.
I guess what I'm saying is, other than ingress and egress, which we're talking about, you know, it says to minimize
Right.
congestion on
Right.
public roads. I guess my question is, what authority what authority does the zoning committee have on the on traffic congestion on a state highway?
I think the authority that you have is you take a look at it, and you look at what the increase in traffic is going
Okay.
to be, what the state is going to allow for additional ingress and egress off of that, and is that going to be adequate?
Okay.
Well, if we narrowed it down, say limited the hours, then it's gonna be jammed in there with vehicles, more so.
Well, you know, that,
Well, I mean, I'm just saying,
Right.
if it was less hours, then of course you're gonna, one isn't gonna try to get more out of there than in that time. So by spreading it out over a 24-hour period, it's still a lot of trucks, but it's not. So thinking of, I'm just like congestion right there at getting in and out of rods, where the road's gonna be.
And the roads themselves are state roads, so there's no additional expense to the township. And trucks on the road have to pay taxes based on how much usage they have of the road to the state for that. Right? Is that my right understanding?
That's right. That's right.
So, and as long as they have reviewed it and with the number of trucks, have no concerns, I guess I have no concerns based on it.
Oh, yeah, and it's not right on somebody else's property line. It's kind of in not the center of Dodge, but it's it's not right on somebody's fence line.
it needs to be DOT approved, you know, if they're,
And that's happened.
right. Did we miss anything? I mean, I guess I believe that there are adequate measures have been taken. Unless we need to look into anything further, if there's anything else anybody can think of. Put a roundabout up there.
Scrap the right way.
There's one coming,
We've got a couple smiles out there. All right.
there's one coming. Two coming.
But,
Can they restrict when those trucks are gonna be coming out, just to avoid when the school buses, I mean, that's only a couple times.
yeah,
during
I think
the day.
I think we're gonna get to that. We need to get through these 5 items first, and I think we'll touch base on, the additional stuff. So if we can get through these items, that's, I believe when, it would be applicable to talk about, landscaping, things of that nature. Is that accurate, Doug? I'm ready.
Ed? This is for the access road. Lowell?
Yes.
Troy?
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yep.
And Linda, yes. Okay.
That the conditional use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located.
Such as off-street loading. And all of that's far from Highway 60, so there won't be any loading on 60, correct? Okay, everything will be taking place on the mine site itself. Okay.
Yes.
For the lighting part of it, Kyle, I know there's been a lot, I mean, if there was, have you had to do anything different, like change them at any of the other sites, with complaints from
We,
lighting, at night,
a couple of year and a half ago, or a couple of years ago, we did some significant excavation at Clayton at night, and there weren't any complaints, or we didn't make any, no complaints, and we did a fair amount then. In Prairie du Chien here, there have been some complaints, and we've adjusted the lights to minimize the extent possible, and actually we developed a plan to minimize the lights more so, and to have them up higher and shining down, so we have less wattage, and the city decided that that was non-desirable, so then we didn't do that. But we've made modifications. As far as the star quarters, I spoke to some of those people, and they have some concerns, and I'll take the time to go out there, view what they're viewing, look at the different areas, turn our lights on and off, and see if it has an impact. So I will do what we can to see that the lights aren't an impact, and from the road, they'll be shown down in. I don't see whether there will be any significant impact. I don't see where there'll be any significant impact from the lights.
One of the performance standards is gonna kind of come out, because I'm seeing some things in here that we need to make sure that there's not an issue with. One would be refuse. Is that going to be an issue?
What did you say?
Refuse, the basic garbage, basically just says that any waste materials, I don't know if there will be, but basically just says all waste materials, debris, refuse, unused construction materials or garbage shall be kept in an enclosed building or properly contained in an enclosed container designed for such purposes. Is that going, are we okay with that?
You bring in you bring in, like, for just regular garbage on the site, whatever.
We'll have garbage cans and anything that is done on site. If we change out, there'll be proper spill containment equipment there. There should be very minimal garbage. We'll either carry it off the site of ourselves or hire a dumpster to be put there if need be.
The next one is, well, you talked about the off-street loading. Next one is traffic control. I think we talked about that. There's drainage, maintenance. I mean, these are things I guess you guys need to, if you feel is an issue, you need to talk about. You have ordinances concerning erosion control. If you feel like you've talked about those enough and have addressed those in other aspects of this or not, but now is the time you need it. If you have concerns about those, you need to talk about those things.
So that was all listed before as far as erosion, plans in place to eliminate erosion. And whether it be retained ponds or whatever you need to put in, you'll put in so that erosion is always controlled and minimized. And the same with stormwater pollution. That's been in their plans and I guess discussed
Dan covered,
previously.
yeah, Dan covered that.
Yeah, and that was all in Dan's report.
We don't really have setback issues in terms of structures.
There should be.
Next is the vision clearance triangle.
And that was addressed with the DOT.
Does those easements affect that?
You have regulations for driveways, I'm assuming that those are all being complied with in terms of slope and everything else.
And the reclamation.
Okay.
Dan might be there.
there are issues that people have, if you have with concerns about them not complying with the requirement or something of your code, now's the time.
And it's stated you'd only be blasting once or twice a week, right? Is that what you're looking at?
So the blasting, yes, would be once or twice a week, but,
Probably at the most.
yeah, what we've done, actually, I think if you look at the permit there, what it says is once or twice a day, which it isn't gonna be once or twice a day.
You send that and change it.
Yeah, on average, it would be once or twice a week.
I think he also said that under the Wisconsin regulations, it can only be Monday through Friday. Can't
Yes,
blast.
it'd be just one Monday through
Right.
Friday, and,
Can't blast on the weekend.
no, and it won't be after 5.
And after 5 o'clock.
Unless, I mean, there's,
Let's get a special.
yeah, there's, what's planned would be before 5, and if,
It seems that all of the additional aspects are being conformed to.
Well, I just don't see where they're not conforming to the, I think that's where the issue would come in, if they're not conforming. I'm ready.
Lowell, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, it's all pretty well stated in here, yep.
So this will be concerning item 5,
Yep.
that the conditional use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it's located. Lowell,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Troy.
Yes.
Linda, yes? Ryan?
Yes.
You've made, at least you've made the 5 required findings. I think now would probably be a good time to talk about if, in fact, you do vote to approve this, are there conditions, additional conditions that you want to place on the conditional use permit, okay? If you look at your code, it says, additional requirements. Conditions such as, but not limited to landscaping, architectural design, type of construction, construction commencement and completion dates, sureties, lighting, fencing, planting screens, operational control, hours of operation, improved traffic circulation, deed restrictions, highway access restrictions, increased yards or parking requirements may be required by the Town Plan Commission upon its finding that these are necessary to fulfill the purpose and intent of the ordinance. So, if you have concerns about some of these items, if you think there are conditions that you could place on this, if it were to be passed, that would alleviate some of the concerns that you have, that you've heard from residents, now's the time to talk about those and discuss those. You don't have to have any additional requirements. They will be required to do a number of things as part of the reclamation plan. And they have to comply with the ordinance as part of the conditional use permit. But if there are other things, like you mentioned, when the school buses are running, now is the time to talk about those things. And, I don't know if Madison has any additional requirements that they've been discussing or kicking around. If you guys have them, now's the time to talk about them.
Not so much on the school buses yet. Kyle, I guess one thing I was looking at, along Highway 60 there, up on, the hill, how it could help conceal things even better, or basically to conceal noise. The thought of some bigger trees being planted, where it's not gonna be from the highway to break up some more view.
That can be certainly considered and looked at if it's effective and has value, that we can certainly look at doing that.
Anything to, break down noise or anything, that was one thing, when I seen landscaping, that was one thing that definitely comes to my attention.
Well, that's something you can certainly, a condition that you can place upon the permit.
Landscaping or a buffer?
Yes.
That would be good.
Well, it's certainly something that may apply in front of Myron Nagel's house.
Right.
However, without Myron Nagel here telling us he'd like to see something like that, or calling us, if it would be, this is where it would be of value to have him or.
Probably didn't come because there's no public comment allowed.
Well, that could be. It could be. I guess what I'm saying is this is the part where this is, I wish the entire township would have been more proactive at this part of it. Because now here, we may need to set this back.
It's your guys' job to be proactive, that's your job. And he says he can consider it and look at it. That means he won't do it unless you guys require it, because planting trees comes off his bottom line. So if you guys think it's important, you better make it a rule, because he will not, unless
Why
he's
are we-
required to.
We may just, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, it certainly sounds to be a good idea, but if someone like Mr. Nagel it doesn't make any difference to him, then I don't know why we would make it a requirement, I guess.
Why are you more concerned about Meyer and Nagel than us?
I'm using him
Past everything
I'm
else.
using him as an example.
You might as well just pass this one too, right?
Landscaping.
What's wrong with shutting down on weekends and after 8 o'clock at night? So we can sleep too. Like we got up here. Jeez.
I would like to see a landscaping as a buffer in areas where it may be seen from the highway. If that comes up, I would like that, you know, if there's places that it would be seen, if there was, you know, a temporary fence or something.
And one of the things is look at that, and we go out and look at it, that's fine. There are some valleys there that you're not gonna get a tree to grow 50 feet tall or 75
Right.
feet. But in areas where it's possible to have some value, or if something related to Myron Nagel, and actually, that's certainly possible. I don't have a problem with that. It's just a matter of it having a when and where, and it being effective, accomplishing the goal.
Now's the time to limit the traffic, limit the hours, folks. If you don't do it now, it's never gonna happen. Think about us that live out there.
We gotta live too, not
You
just
live
them
off the
that
highway,
fill their
sure.
pockets.
What about us?
Well,
It's all greed is what you call
Now's
it.
the time.
Regarding the hours of operation, you know, so a few months ago, I had a resident contact me and wanted to know about the hours of operation, if this was something that could be done 6 in the morning till 6 at night, 7 in the morning till 6 at night. And I said this is something the committee could recommend, the board could possibly approve it. At the end of the conversation, I said, you know, what we have to consider is the additional traffic, all the traffic being on the road during the day and none at night. Maybe it would be safer to have some of this traffic at
Limit
night.
the truck, limit the truck.
At the end of the conversation, the resident asked, well, can't we have all the trucks come out of there at night? So it's kind of a regulation, if, you know, it can be regulation, it can be a regulation can hurt you in the end if you don't think about it.
Planting a buffer of trees around the property isn't gonna hurt anybody. I strongly suggest you make them do it, because it won't.
Why not limit all them trucks going in that first driveway, take them out of the back door out, right past their own homes?
Limit the
Why their own
trucks.
homes, yeah. Why make other people suffer?
You don't set the limits now, it's never gonna happen. Mining companies are known for it. You take a mile.
I hate to be farm machinery along that road with all those semis now too.
We'll invite each one of you to come up and sleep in my front yard when it all happens. Or even have a picnic in my front yard.
Yeah.
Next to the rumble strips and,
Well, the bikes that travel up and down
absolutely.
And who's gonna pay 15 years down the road when everybody in Bridgeport acquires lung cancer? Is Bridgeport or Patterson gonna pay for that? And they say, oh, there's no sand dust, there's particles, small particles gets in your lungs, hard to your lungs, you die. Period.
We had doctors from Mayo Clinic even made a remark on that it causes it.
I had approved the school bus times. I would definitely like to see something put in there that when they're in operation, that maybe no trucks are hauling, that would consist of
Actually, with
an hour
that,
in the morning and an hour in the afternoon?
as Ryan said, one of the things is to understand the implications of our decisions, and certainly I have kids as well as most people have had, to understand that more so, truckers, for them to, I mean, to have a license, what's called a CDL, I mean, that they're a trained professional, and their livelihood, their ability to make an income and support their family depends upon their having a good record. They've got requirements for drug screening. They have requirements as far as their blood alcohol content needs to be less than you or I that doesn't have a CDL. Anyway, the point being, if my kid was on that school bus, I'd feel more comfortable if the semi was following that bus because he's a trained professional. If he hits that bus, he loses his livelihood to drive. I mean, no insurance company will allow him to drive a semi again or insure him.
Semis get in accidents all the time, so that's not.
What about all the foggy mornings?
What about all the diesel and
Folks, can we please get through this pretty please? We just,
If you are going to require that, I think what you should do is you should set a time frame. Not just say that when school buses, I think it's gotta be crystal clear. In other words, the
Right.
trucks will
And
not
I guess
run
we have to
from
find out
this
what
time until this time,
the school buses
that,
run.
and from this date
We're
until
talking
that
about
date.
two school districts too.
What about days
Yeah.
off school, weekends? Kids are there. They're still around.
We've got a school district that likes to run in bad weather, so
If that's-
I think it's real important.
It would be, was he stupid?
When a
Could
semi,
be Prairie du Chien too.
when a truck hits a school bus, you know what happens. It's better,
Yeah,
better
yeah.
than a
they're
boat
worried
fight
about
next one, I tell you that.
Remember, our school district has summer school too, so that needs to cover summer months, not just school year.
So that will have to be determined at another time, because I don't know when you're $100,000. I could guess, but I wouldn't know for sure.
Here's what I mean, questions 1 through 5, the majority of those were a matter of fact, pretty plain and simple. Number 2 was the real key, and that's where you all pissed on us. You pissed on your neighbors.
Here, here.
Don't do it
Here,
now.
here.
At least now, put some rules in. Put some rules in. You pissed on us once, don't do it again.
Wake up, let's do it.
Did I miss the part where you, the applicant has to show a hardship in order to get a conditional use? Is that,
They don't need a condition. No, they don't have to show they don't have to show hardship to get a conditional use.
they don't have to demonstrate a hardship?
Yes,
Not-
they do.
They do not need a hardship for a conditional use permit.
It's for an exemption of a year.
You're talking about a variance, and that's not the issue here.
I still think it should be a referendum, let the public decide. Two or three people, you
I
know.
talked to John Carr, and he
For
even
60
agreed
years.
with me, he thought it'd be a good idea.
60 years, most people won't be around. You look out for your kids and your grandkids.
How open is this to, after a year, if there's an issue, that we can discuss it again? I mean, how open is it? Once it's on paper, is it done for 60 years, 20 years, whatever this council decides?
The reclamation plan is for 30 years. The conditional use permit, you can review that.
The reclamation.
At any time,
Well, I'm
forever?
sorry, yeah, the reclamation plan is for the life. The conditional use permit can be reviewed.
Can be reviewed, but under state law, the life of the mine determine the length of the permit.
Right,
So
so
the
once,
permit should
once you
be
guys do
consistent.
this, you're all in.
Because once you bring it,
So you
Right.
better make the right decision now. I have no confidence with question number 2 that any of you did your due diligence. And you're just pissed on your neighbors. We're your neighbors. We all live together in this community.
Never be the same.
And you didn't do your due diligence, and you ruled against us all.
Wasn't one no, yes, 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 yes.
Are there requirements that you want to place on the, if you approve the conditional use permit, are there requirements that you want to put in?
Nobody like put a landfill in alongside.
Well, you can talk about how you want to define that. Maybe you don't want to put the hours, maybe you want, but I don't. But ultimately, you gotta give them some guidance in that
Right.
restriction as to when they can run and when they can't. I mean, you could put in there that they cannot operate trucks during hours of school bus operation for those school districts, if that's what you want to do. You know, I think I list the districts we're talking about, make sure we don't miss anybody. But you certainly have the authority to do that. I'm saying you could just state that during hours of operation of school buses for that, or the normal hours of operation for school buses for those districts, they can't operate, they can't run trucks.
Right.
Well, one day you're gonna have Prairie run, the next day Ezekiel might be off. How you guys gonna have a mess? Foggy mornings, late starts. Now that's right.
Okay, you talked about the landscaping, you talked about the school bus, is there, what else are there other conditions you want to put on this?
Why not let the people make the decision?
Let us
We're all
sleep at
here.
night. Let us sleep at night. At least do that. Let us sleep at night. Limit their hours, 12 hours a day.
Daylight hours only. Closed on the weekend. No blasting, no hauling on the weekend.
Or holidays.
5 days a week, daylight hours only.
24-hour public notice for blasting.
Think about it. If you lived on Highway 60, what would you do? Come on.
Take the trucks up to their own property, up to that second driveway.
Well, architectural design, there shouldn't be any problems there, it's only in buildings. So you don't have to worry about that, or type of construction, because you need more construction.
Linda, I want to change places with you come next summer when all these trucks are going. I want to have you come to my residence and I'll move to yours, where it's nice and quiet.
Let's put a
No death.
limitation too. We don't want that sand mine there, no 60 years. No way.
60 years is 3
What, you draw, you
generations.
want
for
to
us.
switch places with me when this all starts? Go, how about it? Ed,
Nobody has.
you're all on the road, you know.
We're
Why
out
don't
there
you
in
put
sand
your
mines.
house in the mine area?
Yeah.
Maybe the school, yeah, maybe. Maybe there
Limitation on the
shouldn't be
years.
Limitations in school bus hours, because they do all different hours. There'll always be different
Let Madison worry about that. Put the rule in.
hours. So.
Don't worry about his economics.
He can make sure he complies with the rule. Put
Take
it
care
in.
of the people.
What do you guys think? I mean, I can see where could present all kinds of other problems, because
You need to back off,
we
folks.
don't know
Put a moratorium
exactly
on this.
when it is.
We're not ready for it.
days, 12-hour day.
Well, but that could change if it is a foggy day, then it could change.
True, too.
Troy, one quick one. Can you do that, how do you do that in order to be able to stop your grain trucks? Your
You gotta
grain
stop
trucks
all
still
trucks.
run. You've gotta stop
All
all
semis have to be
trucks,
stopped.
gentlemen.
You can't
Ladies, you
limit
guys.
Great
Well,
truck,
it's
not
just
run all
that,
night
you know,
long.
it's a state highway.
Yeah.
State highway.
So,
You know,
I'm saying,
it's
like,
the
there's
hours-
something else
it's like
into
the
it,
hours of
that's all.
operation. I said that
Are there 250 grain trucks a day?
residents.
More than that.
Every day?
All
semis
semis
have
have
to
to
be
be
stopped.
stopped.
We're not talking about that, we're talking about Madison Mine, we're not talking about grain trucks.
And the day.
We're talking about a truck every
It
6
was,
minutes,
it
people.
was,
Every 6 minutes.
All night long.
it was,
Why would they care, Tim? They don't live out there. They don't give a shit. Period.
Can we please keep working on this?
You're not working.
Put
for
some
people,
rules in place.
apparently.
Like I
Be
said, you
quiet.
screwed us on number 2, at least do something here. Put some rules in place.
Let's live our lives. For sure, definitely, I think that's something that we should put into effect, for sure. I mean, just to minimize as much, I mean, I definitely.
Okay, so one, you got the buffer strip, is that just where you can be seen, or where do you want that?
I don't think you're able to see it in that many places.
It'll help cut down noise. I'd have them circumference the whole property.
Of course.
Couple rows of nice big pine trees, keep the noise down. He's a multi-million-dollar corporation, he can afford that.
You can do the same difference with fence and
Where you
where
guys want it.
Right, I know. I
trees.
mean,
We don't want
there's trees there now, on some of it, on some of that, right there.
a lot of it already has trees in place.
A lot of it does, but there's a few spots that can use a few more, I'm sure.
So,
There's a lot of concern with lighting from some of the residents. You know, I'm not certain what the remedy is, but lighting may or may not be an issue.
but if it's all directed towards the mine and not outwards,
Right.
then it shouldn't affect anybody. There's any, it's all agricultural land anyway, there's not any residential land that's on mine.
As for hours, man, I know people have to sleep, and I want to too, but I just think if it was all combined into a shorter section, that's my only fear of that.
Maybe it's a matter of holidays or, you know, certain days of the year or something where, you know, a lot of family and friends are on the roads traveling. Maybe that may be an answer, I'm not sure.
That's a good thought.
But as far as
I just
24 hours a day, as far as 12 hours a day, I think it's, my opinion is it will be a safety hazard. If you congest all the traffic during the day, during, you know, daylight hours, like some residents are asking.
What I'm afraid.
Not only that, you congest the traffic at where they, for ingress and egress. And then,
And no J breaks being used. Can we do that?
Yeah, I would, yeah.
You can do anything.
Not as part of a conditional use. The town could adopt its own separate Jake break ordinance, but you can't do something that you couldn't do in your zoning regulation. Okay, so that's something, no, you don't handle that here. Okay, there's a different way of handling that.
What are you guys gonna do with the silica sands dust? That's the biggest safety issue there is.
So, didn't mean to interrupt on the hours, I was just thinking about it, so.
Limit the truck numbers.
So hours of operation.
Limit the hours, limit the trucks, probably.
Difficult.
guess my opinion is I don't see that the truck traffic is in excess. If the DOT says that it's gonna handle the traffic, I don't see it being in excess. You know, as far as 18,000 trucks, vehicles going.
But you're gonna add to them.
18,000 vehicles going by
I don't
Walmart.
think
is
I
an
wanna
account.
jog on that highway no more.
Another.
Wouldn't wanna ride a motorcycle.
You know, not substantial. But
Could be several times there where there's nothing going. No, that's plenty of force. Supply and demand.
Didn't even answer the question.
Okay, so
So, what's this going on?
once the permit would be issued, then we can't come back with the conditional use to
I
make
don't know, it's
changes.
sitting.
But if we were to follow the rules and regs, then it would fall into not acceptable anyway.
Well, probably won't have to word out. Then now I'll put it at least the best.
Can I ask you, why are we in such a hurry to push this through? Why are we in such a hurry? Why can't we take months down the road?
Money.
Trees need to be cut soon.
Heart attack.
Something of this magnitude, why can't we wait, make sure it's what the people want and everybody works together?
You have to have input from the people. Start listening to the people.
certainly, this is just part of the process. This isn't, this is part of the process, it has to go through the board yet. So, nobody's rushing anything through, I guess, is what I'm.
Why don't you ask the
getting
people
at.
about certain things, about what they wish they don't like about it or do like about it? Ask them. We're all right here, we're the ones that, speaking our mind on this. I've been asking you now and I haven't heard nothing about this not taking trucks out of that first driveway.
I would still like
You
to
ignored
see
me again.
I do, I want
We can review that.
Why do you want to define the landscaping conditions?
Oh my God! Who gives a shit about that? It does.
To review it, to review it.
Oh my God, landscaping.
I don't know how to word it, but so that if there's areas that,
What if they are required to submit an acceptable landscaping plan to the
Is that what
planning
you come up
commission?
with?
Yeah.
yeah.
What?
Okay, so you got the landscape, are there other conditions you want to place on this?
Yeah.
Because I have to agree with Ryan to change the hours of operation and try to fit the work into 12 hours instead of 24. Would probably cause more of a problem because it would increase the number of trucks that would be coming in and out of there in those daylight hours as opposed to running 24.
That's the number.
Lighting has pretty much already been addressed several times, and they've made changes already to change the lighting so it is more concentrated.
Fencing, I don't know that part, that question. Fencing.
Yeah, the improved traffic circulation, speed restrictions, that's highway access restrictions, increase yards and parking requirements, I don't think that applies.
what type of deed restriction? There really isn't anything hard on them.
This is kind of warm.
Is this not the time to limit the application from, have it back review every year, to be reapproved again? We can't do that? Now's the time to do it. How about every 2 years? Can't let it run for 30 years. Gotta put a limit on it.
The state law says the permit has to be, permit's issued for the life of the mine. Yeah.
The cup does have to be issued for life of the mine?
Maybe,
I don't think so.
maybe you want to cut back to 60, the number 60 as far as the completion date.
Does this committee not have, does this township not have an ordinance, a non-metallic mining
Oh, I
ordinance?
see, okay.
Pardon me?
Well, at the 60-year, I guess is what I was getting. 60.
They don't.
That's just,
But that's not part of it.
that's what
They
they're
think that would
saying.
be all in there?
Permit, they ask for permits. There's more like.
They're bending the rules.
You're blowing it, folks. Down you.
That's a
Your head out of the
wonderful
sand,
question.
look around.
No.
Do you not have, does the town of Bridgeport not have a non-metallic mining ordinance?
They have a non-metallic reclamation ordinance.
That's not the same.
Correct.
If you had a non-metallic mining ordinance, you would have all these things in there already. Like we have in Wazeeka.
I mean, the ordinance, the reclamation ordinance sets forth everything that they have to do in order to operate that line.
Reclamation to me means what they do at the end of it.
But it also, what they have also covers all of the issues that will pop up that the state has determined, NR 135 has determined these are the issues that they have to address. And it covers issues not only just during reclamation, but also during the operation.
But not specific things.
And that has to be reported annually.
Correct.
Bridgeport needs to have a non-metallic mining ordinance before reclamation.
Settle the people down a little bit at the outline, what the next step is.
I want to see if they have the question.
I don't have it.
Are there requirements you want to put on? Now's the time.
I guess I keep going back to Delta 3 and their findings, and they went through it all. And we noted things that needed to be changed, which were, and then were, felt complete in it, and I guess that's why we hired them to do it, because we really didn't know all of the legalities of it, such as soil warrants and things like that. So I think from that standpoint, a lot of answers, a lot of questions were answered in my mind.
Are you serious? Are you ready to move on?
No. No.
You really have decided this here. No.
I'm ready unless there's anything in addition anybody from the committee wants to add.
So, when you, I just want to be clear, when you vote on whether to approve the conditional use permit, the only additional requirement is that they're required to submit an acceptable landscaping plan to the plan commission? Is that correct?
You're kidding me, guys.
Is that correct?
That's it.
School thing,
Wow.
that is
Oh,
it.
landscaping on them.
Should be proud of yourself.
So
Listen,
disappointing.
Happened to the buses.
You guys are so disappointing. How you so cavalierly disregard the wishes of your neighbors, the people you're supposed to be representing. It's just so disappointing.
Gotta get out and vote them out.
I hope you guys can sleep at night.
So okay.
Could I open a nuclear waste site?
Alongside neighbors.
Motion would be,
Landfill?
I guess you will be considering a motion to address the Patterson conditional use permit with the additional requirement that they submit an acceptable landscaping plan to the planning commission. Is that correct?
That sounds
That's
accurate
the
to me
motion.
unless there's anything in addition.
Okay,
I think maybe we should get a sand mine right by the port out there, see how many people come and
Somebody
move
wants
and
to
come
make
in
that
here.
motion.
Somebody want to make that
See it.
motion?
To address the conditional,
To approve.
approve the conditional use
So they can't even make the motion.
with Patterson Sand to submit acceptable landscape plan.
It would be to approve the conditional use permit application with the requirement that they submit the acceptable landscaping plan.
To approve the conditional permit use application.
Use permit application.
Use permit application. Okay.
With the additional requirement that they submit.
With the additional requirement that they submit a landscape plan.
An
I
acceptable.
love this. I'll make the best better. Zoom in.
Just like Washington, listen to the lobbyists and act on rules that don't apply to your constituents. It's great. Son, take notes, this is how it works. Jared, this is how it works.
What about all the questions that were turned in?
Oh, they were gonna answer
Never had
those.
any of them answered.
According to them.
I'm trying to make sure I get it down right.
Are you attorney to do nothing?
Yep.
They promised those
I'm not gonna answer you. I'm gonna
Blowing it, folks, you're blowing it.
They gotta sleep at night, they gotta look at themselves.
Your reputation.
It's your one chance to stand up and do what's right.
This is our power, this is it. This is why we don't have the,
And the lawyer should have more input, he represents the people that are paying him.
additional landscape.
I don't know how a couple people can ruin everybody else's life and get by with it.
They don't care.
Application with the additional landscape plan.
They don't live out there.
Old saying, man.
Landscape plan requirement.
It is a motion to approve conditional use permit application by Patterson with the additional requirement that they submit an acceptable landscaping plan.
This is too much.
What deemed acceptable, another board meeting?
The plan commission would determine that, I guess.
Sure, so anything.
Motion to approve the conditional use permit application by Patterson Sand with the additional requirement that PSC submit an acceptable landscape plan.
To protect that well of ours and the cattle issues, should we get that in writing? Can't answer.
I'll second
So just, slow down. Who made the motion?
Try it.
Ed, how are you voting?
Yes.
Your own grandkids live right there on 60.
Pretty sad.
I know that.
It's
Pretty
amazing.
sad.
Linda, yes. Ryan,
Yep. Think about it.
Lowell,
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Brian, just one question, Brian.
Well, I mean,
Brian, is that the only condition?
Linda, when did you schedule that next week?
That's it.
The trees, that's it?
Maybe a bush.
All right,
Trees.
they've asked to at least tell you, the next step in the process is that now the town board has to consider the reclamation permit request. That, the town board, at least my understanding is that their plan is to act on that at a meeting on March 27th at 6 o'clock. Correct, Linda?
yes.
Okay, just want everybody to know what the next step was.
We know they're all in cahoots, they're all gonna go for it.
Meeting is adjourned.
Well, respectfully, Mr. Attorney there, I believe if you look at their ordinance and stuff, and there has to be a zoning administrator appointed. The plan commission has to.
They have a zoning administrator. They
He has
instruct
to
the
be
administrator
recused.
to. But
He was recused.
I'm not gonna argue, the permit is approved by the planning commission.
Yeah. And so your next step, you need to have a zoning administrator. And a zoning administrator has to do a review and report back. And I do believe you have to have another public meeting in order to have a zoning administrator appointed by the town board.
Are you not recognizing this legality? Attorney, Greenfield, you are not recognizing this legality that gentleman's talking about?
It's in your zoning ordinance.
You're getting paid by us, take care of us.
I shall.
You're on.
I'm Marty Steele with Bridgeport Concerned Citizens, and we are really deeply disappointed in the decision that the board has made this evening. It's rather obvious that they didn't have the best interests of our township and our residents, and it's going to go down in history as a really black mark in our township, our county, and our state. And I'm really sorry to have to say that. Thank you.
Wait, okay, it's going.
Is it going? Okay. I'm Mark Fischler and I'm from Bridgeport. We live directly across from the proposed sand mine. I just want to state tonight that the board did not listen to anything or any questions from any of us. We submitted all the questions. Nobody answered them questions. Like Mr. Mike Steiner on the board said that they were that's why the attorney was gonna be here today.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
That's
was not addressed or talked about tonight. But this decision, we're all upset with it. A majority of the township, only a couple are going to benefit from this. And this should go to court and hopefully get appealed.
Anyone else have a statement?
I live here in Bridgeport, from Prairie Sheen area all my life. Just want to say I'm very, very disappointed in what our board didn't do for the citizens that live in Bridgeport. They basically let us down. They dropped the ball for whatever reason. We don't know. They didn't listen to anything we had to say, any input. They made one request if this gets passed through, and that's about landscaping versus health issues versus our children on school buses. So I guess landscaping is the most important thing in our board's mind, and I can't wait till April election.
Anybody else?
Yeah, get on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm Rod Fischler, I'm from Bridgeport, and, people here, they didn't even, side in with the people at all. The people, they work for us, and we've had all of our comments. We put countless hours of time into this, trying to, work with them and work, back and forth. And, we hired them, they didn't even, they didn't take anything into consideration. We've had, we talked about not using this driveway versus this driveway, and they, all they got to do at the end of the night is want to put in a few trees, and it's, it's just heart wrenching, I guess. I live right across from the sand mine that's proposed, and I'm going to have to listen to the trucks coming and going, and I got the sand coming in, and just a world of issues. We got shallow wells. They want to be blowing up the, dynamite 2 to 4 times. Well, they say 1 to 2 times now, but originally it was 2 to 4 times a week. And our shallow well is in that same sand that they want. It's brittle, and it's gonna, if it collapses, and there's no guarantees. They didn't even put in there for if they're, if they could guarantee, we run out of water. We got 80, 90 head of cattle down there, and they lose water on a hot summer day. I need water now, not a month from now before they can drill a well. So a whole host of issues, and none of them got resolved. None of them. So, thank you.
Yeah.